Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure for all of us, I know, to be here at the Reykjavik Women's Forum. We are going to continue the discussion that just took place, because one of the last words in that discussion was that we can't have democracy without women's equality. And today, democracy is being challenged. Women leaders are holding the line, but I would also say that women leaders are on the front line, because the status of democracy is the status of women. And so we look at what's happening in that way. And you really can't have democracy without women's full and equal participation and leadership. Otherwise, it's just a contradiction. And we have an extraordinary group of women here to discuss this topic. I would add to what was said in the earlier panel that today we are seeing the rise of authoritarianism. There is a tremendous pushback occurring all over the world. It was interesting to hear what's even happening here in Iceland in terms of the larger world and what's coming in. But these authoritarians, for the most part, are nullifying laws that many of us have worked very hard to pass. They are contracting the civic space in which we operate. And they are weaponizing the internet. And I think we all know that there are tremendous threats today that are being disseminated across social media, particularly targeted at women, particularly women in public life, because the intent is really to drive women out of public life. And that is one of the, I think, when we get to solutions, one of the things we truly have to focus on. So it's a very complex and urgent time, a time that is really befitting this discussion. So I'm going to start with, yes, a difficult name to pronounce, but I've known her a long time, the former two-time president of Lithuania, Dalia Grybauskaitė. Dalia, give us a sense of what's happening in this universe as you're looking at it from where you sit.
It looks that no matter where we are, but we practically approached by the situation where the being elected woman and being active in public domain is already manifestation of democracy. Because more and more difficult to be elected, being woman, more and more difficult to be resilient under very targeted, precise attacks being woman as a leader. And we do see these authoritarian regimes growing inside our countries, and the first target is usually women in leadership. And that's about inside then we talk, but also because we, from Europe, today are threatened under the direct war, conventional war, and the one of instrumentalization and instruments of this war is attack on women, especially even on refugee women, which we accepting a lot. Baltic states, Poland, and Finland, and other countries. The target from Russia, for example, is to try to make a conflict inside our societies in accepting women, in accepting refugees with kids. So, as I said, to be a woman today, inside and outside around the world, is already a challenge, and already still, if we keep winning, if we keep acting, that means we protecting democracy.
Absolutely. And let's turn to you, Mari Kiviniemi. What are you seeing? How are you seeing all of this?
So the trend is very worrying, alarming, and a bit, I feel we all feel a bit threatened, and we can see it and we can measure it everywhere, also in the countries like Finland and other Nordic countries. And the University of Gothenburg, it publishes the WIDEM report every year, and its latest edition was titled 25 Years of Autocratization, Democracy Trumped? And now there are more than ever people living in the autocracies since the Second World War. So this trend of autocratization is really heavy and can be felt even in G7 countries. And also what I'm worried about is that there are more and more young men who are fancy with the autocratic tendencies and strong leaders, autocratic ones. And this is something which is extremely worrying, because when the younger generations are in that sense so different, so we really have to do something about it. And what Dalia just mentioned, we can see that also in Finland when it comes to being a female candidate in elections. It's more and more difficult, and when you are an elected MP or another public figure, you really confront a lot of hate speech. And of course, men do confront that too. They get hate speech too in the social media. But when it comes to kind of the volume is about the same. There was a research done in Finland. So both get it, both men and women, but the content is different. When it comes to women, it is very sexualized and gender-based. And that really is something what we all have to work for to make the change.
You know, for me, it's so much more disturbing because we look to Finland, we look to Iceland for this tremendous progress in terms of gender equality over decades, really. And to know that it is being felt in this place, your place as well.
Yeah, of course, the level there in Nordic countries is still quite high, but we feel the difference, and we see and we can measure the tendency which is going to the wrong direction.
So let's go to Africa, to Sierra Leone specifically. Minister Satemajo is the Minister for Gender and Children. How are you seeing this manifesting itself?
First and foremost, I would like to say Sierra Leone went through a devastating war between 1991 to 2002, and women and children suffered greatly. So the scars, the deep-rooted scars that we are left after that war is something that we are still trying to see, how we're going to protect our women. When you talk about democracy, in fact, for the war to have come to an end, it was the women who said enough is enough. They marched, they formed movements at the grassroots level, an advocacy movement, so that we put an end to the war. And the war ended. But the scars, as I was saying, the transition period from 2002 to this moment is still something that we need to look into greatly. When you talk about elections, when women want to aspire for elections, they smear their character. That is when violence erupts. Even within the homes where these women are coming from, sometimes they may belong to different political parties. A spouse may belong to a political party, and the wife may also belong to a political party. During that moment, a lot of violence will occur. A lot of things take place. Many women lose their homes. And after elections, we don't go back to see how to protect those women. How do we bring them so that they can get healing after those devastating moments? So they will lose their children, leave their homes, run away. And the structures were not permanently there. The structures to protect women. But however, in recent years, we've decided to put the legislative framework together to see how to support women, looking at the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act, which we just enacted in 2022, which is talking about positioning women in leadership position. Today, we're boasting of 30% women in parliament, 34.5% at the cabinet level, and we also have many female cabinet ministers and deputy cabinet ministers. And some of the parastatals are also women heading some of these ones. However, what we're trying to look at to see how we're going to uphold democracy and its good tenets is that trying to get cross-party initiatives. So when I took up office in 2023, I decided to relaunch what we call a network of women ministers and parliamentarians, In this particular network, though it's a bit challenged because of lack of resources that comes to the ministry, we're trying to see how we group women from different political parties that are present in parliament to see if they have initiatives together. So devoid of political party affiliation, you are going to work with your colleague. So when it comes to having votes or giving votes in parliament, there should be the agency, the one voice to say, we're speaking up for women. We want to speak up for our children. We want to see how we change the narratives so women can be part of the show. So this is the movement we're making. And I am very much glad to say here, I've been part of this movement, and I want to continue to see, even if I leave office, how women become stronger, because there is still challenge when women lack economic empowerment. You cannot challenge men when you do not have the economic power. So these are all the challenges that we are facing, and we want to see how we move forward from this. Thank you.
Well, I think this is yes. It's a really good point, because many have talked about the fact that what's missing, we've made a lot of progress, but where's the power? And you're already into the solutions here, because I think that's what we all want to hear. What are we going to do about this? And bringing women together across political parties. I was in a country in South America once, and I remember the women telling us that they weren't able to make progress on so many issues they cared about because their political parties were telling them, no, they needed to toe the line. And they went against that mandate, and they did come together and met in each other's headquarters from time to time, not pleasing to some of their male counterparts, but made a lot of progress on the agenda because they were determined to come together. So what are some other solutions? How are we going to deal with this threat to women's equality and to democracy, because they are so close? You can't have one without the other.
To fight for democracy, because democratic societies are protecting women, children, minorities. They are protecting all human rights. The more we're allowing the strong so-called man system to take place and autocracies to increase their powers inside our societies, the more women, children, and minorities are losing. So the first is fighting for democracy, and never leave your space empty. If you will think that it's too heavy, too difficult, especially for this audience, you too much under attack, never give up. Never leave your space empty because somebody else will come and will deteriorate your country, will deteriorate your democracy and your political system. Fight always. Don't be afraid. That's the main thing. And if it is necessary, push back hard with force. Yes, even women can be forceful. And sometimes, if somebody don't understand soft power, you can use not very soft power. So that works also.
You're not called the Iron Lady without reason. So what are some of those strategies to hold the line?
At least I can rely mainly on my experience, of course. I was not watching TV and not reading media, because I saw the attacks which were organized directly tailored to me, especially from Russia, because I was criticizing occupation of Crimea already from 2014, very harshly, one of the largest critical attitudes from any country I demonstrated at that time. I was one of the first leaders doing this. So of course I got special treatment from Russia, and of course special informational attacks. But this made me even stronger, because then you receive such kind of attitude, you realize that you're doing well and you're doing absolutely right thing to do. This made me more strong, made me more confident. So why I'm saying, never give up. To any attack, have your own attack. To any pressure, you have your own pressure. And also it's perfect orienteer to know you go in the right direction, you're doing right things. The more negativity you receive, that means you're doing things which are important and necessary. So this needs to be encouragement Don't be afraid of it. It is encouragement that you're doing well.
And I dare say the pushback is happening because women have been successful and moving forward. So there's this attempt to push back. So we've got to push back against the pushback. So Mari, you mentioned what's happening in terms of young men even, and that's just one of many manifestations of this phenomena. But there is a tendency today of a zero-sum game mentality. You succeeded, therefore I as a male can't succeed. You took my job, therefore we don't have the jobs. And this mentality is being pervaded and reinforced to create this new political phenomena in many ways. How do we address that and other issues?
So I think that we have to take this threat and this kind of backwards going development really seriously and act at all stages. And I'm happy that there are so many people here from different sectors. We need media, we need business, we need private sector to tackle the challenge. And we all really need to be active. So take it seriously. Second, I think that we need role models and champions for democracy and gender equality. And of course, those countries which perform well, those are the best role models. And also, as Dalia said, female leaders, we can make the difference together, and we have to kind of continue the work what we have been undertaking for decades. Third is youth and education. We have to be aware of that at all the stages of education. We have to work harder in order to make everybody see how beneficial it is for the whole society, not only socially, not in terms of human rights, but also economically, when countries are democratic and when the gender gap is very small, or it doesn't exist at all. So concentrate in youth and education. And fourth, we need data. We have to really see what is happening, but also we have to make visible all the surveys, all the research which have been undertaken in terms to show why world really needs more democratic countries, because they flourish and they perform the best.
And diversity is a strength.
Yes.
So, Isata, you talked about bringing women together across political divides. What about the men? Have you had any success in bringing together male champions, male allies for your agenda?
What my government does is, especially through my ministry, what we're doing now is getting male champions. We have what we call the Real Man campaign, especially when it has to do with sexual gender-based violence and empowering of women. So we identify people like this in communities, the traditional leaders, all the local societal actors. We have identified a few of them, and we continue to identify them to see how they can be champions for championing the discourse on women. We have also, in my tenure, been working on what we call an accountability framework, where you get ministries, departments, and agencies to properly do gender mainstreaming and gender budgeting for all of their departments, because you cannot have women in those departments that do not occupy higher positions. So this is a start. So once you monitor, you're able to give account of this particular progress that is happening within those ministries, departments, and agencies. Then you begin to understand where you're heading to. I think the other thing we need to do is building stronger institutions that support the empowerment of women. If we do not have stronger institutions, then all of our efforts will just go in vain. Another thing I'll be looking at is how to get regional advocacy movements. Like we have the MAWOPNET between the Mano River Union, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and Cote d'Ivoire. So we need to see these movements being built around countries where if they are stronger, they will be able to champion women's discourse. I think taking this will also lead the way. And last night I was talking about the intergenerational divide. Our young people coming up now, we need to see where they fit in society. But however, we need to have a conversation. The older people and the younger people need to have a conversation on where we're heading to. How do we see this forward? How would you aspire to become a leader and a very strong women's leader? So we need all of this on the table. Then we are able to move forward.
So coming together in many,
please.
many different
Fronts,
forms.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about social media and what to be done about it, but I think the wisdom of this forum has been both to bring males together, because that is obviously a huge challenge, how we work more closely across the gender divide, but also what are we going to do about this force that can be for good, and we have to learn how to use it better, but it's a malign force today. And I know there are experts in the room who are going to tackle that. But if anybody has had any success before we close dealing with, addressing the social media problem.
Okay, so the social media problem is a very big problem and very critical one. A lot of things are happening there. So I started by having the child rights law in my country, where we are addressing the cyberbullying, which is one of the major things that is happening today in Sierra Leone. So you commit crime against any girl, any child, you are going to face the law. But we are just starting to roll out because the law has just been enacted in 2025. So we want to see how we implement most of these laws that we have. We're also trying to see how you report abuse online and directly get linked to our services, the protection services within the country. So all of these things are being worked on, and we hope to see changes where applicable. We hope to see that we are able to maintain the trajectory in which we are trying to look forward to create the change, because also forming movements online, like I belong to what we call the 1 billion rising. I'm a champion in my country on 1 billion rising. So we're looking at all of this. Besides my role as a minister, I'm also championing this 1 billion rising cause to end all of this abuse and also promote the existence of women, and when it comes to women's empowerment. So this is what I've been doing in my life. Yeah.
The last word from either of you?
I think that what we need are really global rules. So legislation, regulation, which will be implemented globally. And I think that we all also have to try to be adults in the room and really speak up when also leaders of this world are using that kind of language, which we wouldn't tolerate in our homes. So we have to be bolder.
And I hope that Europe will be ready if there's pressure from another country and the tech giants to take away some of these regulations. Because with your Digital Services Act and other ways, you have something that we don't have back in the States, for example. So it's made a difference.
Europe is trying to protect itself, and we're doing this even nationally. For example, in my country, we have cyber police, which is watching and monitoring the hate speech on the web and trying to apply it to protect, because democracy needs not only to be soft, but to be able to protect itself from the outside and intentional threats. But what I want to say, even finalizing because we're over time, that even one person matters, even one woman matters. Why it is so important to be self-confident and not to be afraid to be strong. If you will be strong yourself and believe in it, the rest will know that better not to touch you.
Absolutely. I just want to say that on your tables, you may have gotten this bookmark on the Bellagio Compact. This is a group of global women leaders who've come together. Dalia is one of them, to really look at this problem. And if you go into the QR code, there are some solutions. So this conversation, obviously, is just an appetizer. The full course will come in the course of this day, but we will be addressing this throughout the discussions. And I can't thank this panel more, so please join me in thanking them.
Thank you.